Hello and welcome to Creative Marketing TV. My name is Susan Joy Schlief, and today I'm talking with networking and relationship expert Robert Kennedy III about the critical skills that every entrepreneur, professional, and small business owner needs to be successful with networking and building relationships for their business. Welcome, Robert.
Hey, how are you?
I'm fine. I'm really glad to have you here today.
Well, I appreciate being here.
Good. Robert is a business strategist, and I'll let you give a little bit of your background here, but he's graciously consented to this interview to share with us the skills that every entrepreneur, professional, and small business owner can use and must develop actually to make use of the tips that Robert's going to share with us today about networking and business relationships for success.
Awesome.
So the first set of questions I'm going to ask you is about your background and your experience. And let's jump right in and give us a little bit of an idea of how you became an expert in this area of networking and relationship building.
Well, you're putting a lot of pressure on me with the expert tag, but but I'll take it. I was a teacher. I started out my career actually, when I got out of college, I was in the human services industry, in the mental health industry, and I jokingly say that prepared me well for my next job as a seventh grade teacher. Right?
I understand. I taught some of the eighth grade myself.
Yeah. So I lasted in seventh grade 1 year, and then I moved into high school, and I taught high school science for 7 years, and then I was a college online faculty for 2 years. And then after that, I started a business in the training industry. And so I've been there. And then as I was doing things in in the training industry, of course, when you start a business, one of the things that you've got to do is you've got to meet people. You've got to, I don't want to say go prospect for clients or customers necessarily, but you've got to get some relationships built in order to create visibility, in order for you to be able to help more people. So I had to do that. And that was one of the things that I learned to do. And it was nerve wracking. It was crazy. At first, I was the guy that would go in a room and I would kind of hang out by the hors d'oeuvres for a little while. Right?
I can
So
relate.
yeah. So it was, and then of course, if you've taken Myers-Briggs identifies me, of course, labels, right? Myers-Briggs identifies me as an introvert. So I had to create who I needed to be in order to show up how I needed to show up. And that was as an extrovert in some way, or a planned extrovert. And so, of course, I do that, and then I go back and I try to recharge after that. But that's a little bit about the background.
Yeah, wow, that's very interesting. I am an introvert as well, and
Yeah.
I never would have guessed that about you because you do come across as very, very friendly, very outgoing, very
Right.
energetic. You've done a good job creating that persona.
Well, you know what? I don't want. I also want to clarify some things for people. Being an introvert doesn't necessarily equate to shy, or doesn't necessarily equate to lack of energy. And that's one of the things that some people think about, or especially if they've heard themselves labeled as an introvert and they go to a networking type of event, they're kind of shocked, or they're scared out of their wits because they've bought into that hype that as an introvert, I'm supposed to be shy. I'm supposed to be withdrawn. I'm supposed to be kind of the person in the corner of the room shivering until somebody comes and stretches their hand out to me. And that, the truth really is that an introvert is a matter of energy. It's a matter of how you utilize that energy. And so as an introvert, I don't necessarily draw energy from people. People draw energy from me. And so when
Mm.
I leave an event, when I speak, when I teach or train for a day, when I'm in a group of people, golly, at the end of that, I'm drained and I've got to recharge. My wife, on the other hand, is an extrovert. When she goes into a room or a place where there are a lot of people, she lights up, and she draws energy from that.
That's interesting. I never heard it explained that way, but that resonates with my experience
Yeah,
that I don't have any problem interacting with people, especially one or two at a time is
yeah,
easier for me. Yeah.
yeah,
And in a large group, I'm fine if I'm in a role of
right.
teacher or presenter,
Mm,
but coming into the social setting and, often I feel like I don't know where to start,
right,
Yeah. So
right.
that's interesting.
Well, you know what? Relationship building and networking is actually perfect for introverts because one of the things and one of the tips that I'll talk about is asking great questions. Asking great questions and then listening. Introverts are built to listen, right? So
Yeah.
so if we can be in a place where we can just ask questions and then let the other person talk, let them do all of the work, let them do all of the energy here, then that's kind of what we're built for. We're able to pace ourselves a little bit better. We're able to move at a pace that really works for us so that we're not so spent at the end of the day.
Hmm. Very interesting. Well, did one last question about your background. Did you get any formal training in this, or is this all just things that you've sort of figured out on the job?
Well, a lot, yeah, on the job training. I mean, my biology and history were my majors in college, right?
Yeah.
But I always say that if I had to do college over again, I would have done something in the field of communications because radio and those types of things, doing voiceovers, those are things that I've always been interested in, and so I had to really dive deep in how to make an impact or how to create effective relationships with people. And as I said before, in doing a business or in building a business, building several businesses, I built four businesses. And so in doing that, you have to figure out people. How can you effectively relate to them, connect with them? And, they say that people do business with people they know, like, and trust, right? So how
Right.
do I become that person to everybody else?
Yeah. How do you be someone that people trust,
Yeah,
right? Yeah.
yeah,
Well, it's clear that you are the expert to talk to us about relationships, Robert. So let's dive into those skills that every entrepreneur and professional and business owner needs.
right.
What would you say is the first most critical skill that people really need to develop?
Well, what I just mentioned was questions, asking great questions, especially if we're talking about networking at a networking event. A lot of times you've been to these events, right? Where I call these people the networking ninjas. They come in and they're the card chuckers. They just kind of
Right.
run in and they give you their card and they're kind of saying, "Hey, I'm an IT professional or I'm this, and here's why you should buy from me. Here's why you should email me and call me immediately, because if you don't, then your world is going to come crashing to an end and Armageddon's going to hit you. And you need me in your life." Right? So, you know and I've met a whole lot of those. And how do you make yourself different? People love to talk a little bit about what they're up to. They like to talk about themselves,
Right.
right? And so why not show that you're interested in them? Why not just ask questions before you get to the event, before you get wherever you're getting? What are some critical questions? What are some things that you can ask anybody that would get them talking? Why did you come to this event? What do you think about the food? What do you think about, I mean, don't necessarily get political, but if there is somebody that is talking or a speaker that's at the event, what do you think of this idea that the speaker shared? If there's something, be well read. If there's something that is happening in your environment or in your locale, you know ask a question about that. Be prepared with at least 5 questions that you can ask people.
I like that idea. It's like scripting ahead of time what you're going to ask.
Yeah,
And of course, you can decide in the moment to change that up. But
yeah,
if nothing else comes up, at least you have a couple of questions in mind that you can fall back on that you already have memorized.
yeah,
Like, okay, if I don't know what to say to this person, I'm going to ask them what's new in your business these
yeah,
days,
yeah, yeah.
right?
And it's easier to ask a question than it is to come up with a sales pitch, right?
Right.
So, you know, being great at questions, coming up with great questions is a great skill to have, and a great place to start.
Absolutely. That's a good one. Thank you. So what would be the next skill that you recommend people develop?
Well, that's an easy one. After you ask the question, the next thing that you've got to do is listen, right? So a lot of us have, and it's tough. This is a very tough thing to do. Listening should be really easy, but it can be challenging because you ask somebody a question and they start talking, and immediately your mind starts to go to, okay, what should I go to next, or what's the next thing that I need to
Mhm.
ask them, or how should I respond to this? And so part of your mind is not present anymore. Part of
Right.
your mind is not listening to what they're saying. You're trying to figure out where it is that you get to jump in next,
Right.
or you're anticipating that, and you're maybe anticipating that so heavily that you're nervous about it, and you're trying to, oh my gosh, what I say next, what I say next, and you're getting, you're everything's speeding up for you,
Yeah.
right? But slow it down a little bit. Have no expectations, just listen to what they're saying. And sometimes, and this is the part that makes some people nervous, they wonder, oh my gosh, what happens when they finally pause, and there's that awkward moment and I've got nothing else to say. Right? And it's okay to have a pause in the conversation. It's okay to have dead air for just a moment. There's nothing
Mhm.
wrong with that. And if both of you decide, you know what, all right, well, this we're full, we've satisfied our appetite at this point, it's okay to move on,
Yeah.
and that's it.
Yeah. That's a good point. There's nothing wrong with saying, I think we've said what we need to say to each other, and
Yeah,
let's go talk to someone else.
exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. It's interesting you mentioned about thinking about what you're going to say to respond to them. But I know for me, I notice sometimes I'm thinking about how what they're saying relates to me and what I want to say. Oh, yeah, that happened to me last week. And pretty
Right.
soon I'm thinking about me rather than listening to them.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. So yeah, listening's important.
Yeah, definitely. All right. And then is there another skill that you would recommend people focus on?
Follow up.
That's a good one.
Follow up. So if I'm at, and we're kind of limiting this to networking right now, but in any relationship, in a business relationship, in a romantic relationship, in a mentor relationship, in a mentee relationship, in any relationship that you can think of, the relationship is only perpetuated or continued if at least one of the parties decides, hey, I need to reach out and intentionally connect and have something to say.
Hmm.
So what good is it if I go to an event and I meet 100 people and I collect 100 business cards, and then I come and I put them all down, and I've got a bunch of them here on my desk, right? And I put
Yeah.
them on my desk, and I don't follow up with these people. I don't get them in a one-on-one situation via email or via phone, or via lunch, meeting them at a Starbucks. If I don't follow up with them, then what I had was a meeting. I didn't initiate a relationship, you know?
Yeah, that's a good point too. It's not really about just meeting and talking for that one time. It's about developing a connection to that
Right,
person, right? And a connection is something that's ongoing. It's
right.
not about one event. Yeah.
Yep.
And connections and relationships take
Yeah,
maintenance.
they do.
Right? Yeah.
They do. And the thing is, when you ask the first skill, when you are able to ask great questions and you're able to listen, then you can get a sense of who this person is and what their needs are. And if you're able to get that, then you can figure out. So if I go to an event and I meet 20 people, I'm able to hear in my mind, or I'm able to see which of these 20 people I have something in common with, or I've got a value match with, that I
Hmm.
can be helpful to, or I can be of service to. And those are the people that are going to be first on my list to follow up with, because I've got something that syncs right with what their needs are, and where they are.
Yeah.
And it's polite to follow up with some people, but there's some people, and this is okay. There's some people that you will meet that you may not want to follow up with,
Hmm.
and that's okay.
Yeah.
And we get nervous or scared about that, and think that we care about how they're going to feel about us. Are they going to like us still? If I see them again in the future at another event, are they going to hate me? Are they going to talk about me? you know you're only one person. You can do this amount, and you find the people that you can be helpful to and be of service to. And you're nice to everybody, but you really focus on following up where you're going to be able to gain the most value, and you're going to be able to provide the most value as well.
Yeah, that's important. I was thinking of it too in terms of how do you prioritize which people you need to follow up with the most.
Hmm.
And you're right, it's based on the value exchange in
Yep.
both directions, right?
Yep.
Yeah, yeah, that's good. And do you have any favorite techniques or tips or tools that you like in terms of follow up?
Oh yeah, one of the tools that I recommend. I wish I had a something that I could show you, but Contactually is a tool that I use, and that is a contact management tool. Some might even call it a CRM, but it's a contact tool. And what I love about it is that, how you sit in front of your computer and you're trying to say, well, geez, who do I call today? Who do, who do I send an email to today?
Yeah,
And how long since when was the last time I spoke with Susan? And you got to go searching through your email and doing
right.
searches and all of that. And what this tool does is it kind of buckets things and helps you remember who you spoke with, when you spoke with them, what you spoke with them about, and if it's time for you to reach out again. So,
Hmm.
I'll sit down, and my Contactually dashboard says, okay, you need to follow up with Susan, Robert, Bill, Chip, Jane, Marianne, Marilyn today. These are your 7 people. And okay, I'll just shoot them a quick line, share an article with them. How's it going? Tell me about, if they told me something personal last time that they had going on, I'll make mention of that,
Hmm.
so that really helps me.
Hmm. Contextually.
Yep.
Okay. Anything else?
Oh, there's another tool I use called followupthen.com. And it's something that I put in my BCC. So if I say to you, if we're having a conversation and I email you, and you say, you know what, I'm a little bit busy right now. Can you touch bases with me in 3 months?
Hmm.
Then I'll put inside my BCC 3 months at followupthen.com. And in 3 months, I'll get a reminder saying, hey, follow up with Susan.
Oh, so it sends an email to that system because you copied them on it. And,
Correct. And
oh,
then
that's
the
cool.
system sends me an email in 3 months, and it could be any day or anything like that. I can say Tuesday at
Hmm.
follow up then, or Tuesday 11 a.m. at followupthen.com.
Hmm.
And I get an email at Tuesday at 11 a.m. saying, hey, here's the email that you sent. Follow up with this person. So
So it's an easy way for you to schedule the follow up then without having to go to your own calendar and type it
correct,
in there. Yeah. Nice,
correct,
nice time saver.
correct. Correct. And that's the thing for business owners. Sometimes we get a little bit overwhelmed because we've got what I call Superman syndrome, right?
Hmm.
We think we can do everything on our own, all by ourselves. And you've got to have systems in place. You've got to have some things that automate and allow you to really focus on your business, and doing the things that you're passionate about and that you're good at, the things that are in your strength zone.
Hmm.
So you've got to figure out what are some of the tools. And I'm glad you asked that tools question, but you've got to figure out what are some of the things that you can use to help make life easier for you.
Yeah. And what about routines for tasks, daily tasks, weekly tasks? How do you keep all of this relationship building front and center?
Well, I wish I could turn my computer around and show you something. I've got my bulletin board behind me. Maybe I'll pull it down for just a quick second here. If you don't mind, and I'll hold this up so people can see it. I've got something on my bulletin board that says it's a little process that I've kind of created for
Smurf.
myself. Smurf, right? And like the little blue people, Smurf, except for there's no U.
Right, right.
So the Smurf, the S stands for social media, the M is for mail or email, the I is for introduce, the R is for ring them, as in phone call, and the F is for face to face. So I've got some specific numbers here that I'm targeting every week. Okay,
Okay,
so social media contacts 20 per week, mail or email 10, introduce 5, phone calls 5, face to face 1 or 2. All right. And
okay,
so, what I do, and one of the things that I speak about when I speak to organizations is, do you have an intentional connection or an intentional relationship strategy? Okay,
mhm,
it can't be just random. If I happen to meet people, I meet them, or if I happen to run, or I'm gonna go tweet and I'm just gonna tweet randomly and wildly everything. Everything that I do has got to be purposeful. It's got to have a prioritization. It's got to be something that is going to be valuable, not only valuable to those people, but value to me, as in my time as well. I've got
right,
168 hours. How do I spend that? And if I'm intentional about building relationships, then here I've got to have a system for that as well. And so this is kind of my personal roadmap.
I like it. And I bet when you go into social media, I bet you have lists of specific people that you're looking for and exchanging messages with and sharing their content. And
Right. And it varies. It can be, some days I might be sharing content. Some days I might be just reaching out and saying, "Hey, I haven't spoken to you in a while," or I might have, like today there was a guy that I hadn't spoken to in a long time from Canada, and he wrote an article and it popped up in my feed on LinkedIn. And
mhm,
so I liked the article. I went to my own feed and I tagged him, and I said, "Hey guys, read this article. It's a great article." On LinkedIn, right? And so those types of things, and people have done that for me as well. And I know there was one article that I wrote that the views on it exploded because there was one person that I'd formed a relationship with a while back that said, "Hey, Robert wrote this article. Check it out. I really like it."
yeah.
So
And that can suddenly bring in a lot more views from
mhm.
people that you don't normally, who don't normally see your stuff. Yeah.
Exactly, exactly. But you've got to be intentional about reaching out and sharing and doing some of those things as well. Figuring out what your relationship strategy is for that week.
Right. Well, and the example you just gave too is that person shared your stuff because you had built a relationship with them.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah. Yes. Well, Robert, this has been great stuff. We're getting close to the end here. Do you have any final tips or skills, things that you want to mention that I didn't bring up?
You know what? I think the real big thing is, as I just mentioned, sitting down and deciding that you're going to have a strategy. Sitting down and deciding that you're going to be intentional about relationships, intentional about people, because no matter what business you have, no matter what you're doing, no matter what you're up to, building relationships, people are going to be the foundation of that. There's a great book by a guy named Dale Partridge, and the title of it is People Over Profit, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so you've really got to sit and decide, okay, if I'm going to change the world, if I'm going to impact the world, if I'm going to do anything, that starts with people, and I've got to figure out how to build a foundation with them.
It's true. Can't have a business without people
No.
and people who preferably like you.
Yeah, that would be good.
Yeah.
That would be good.
So, Robert, if people want to learn more about your strategy for networking or about the business and services that you offer, what's a good place where you'd like to send them to do that?
Oh, they can just connect with me on my website, robertkennedy3.com. And if they want to actually set up a time to chat and see how we can work out, where they are in their business, and if there's anything that I can be helpful with in helping them expand as well, then go to robertkennedy3.com/let's connect and
Okay.
set a time for us to chat.
And that's 3 with the
number 3.
Number 3, not
Yep.
the Roman numerals.
Nope.
Right? Yeah.
robertkennedy3.com.
Right. And how about if people want to look for you on social media, where are the places that you're most around?
I am on Twitter a lot. I'm on LinkedIn. I have a Facebook page as well, and all of those are pretty similar. Robert Kennedy III on LinkedIn, Robert Kennedy 3 on Twitter, and Robert Kennedy 3 on Facebook as well.
Great. Well, Robert, it's been a real pleasure talking with you today, and I've learned some things that I'm going to get kind of a little more clear about my own strategy, and hopefully our listeners will as well. Thank you so much for sharing your expertise today on connections and building relationships and networking. And
Awesome.
Hopefully all of our audience of professionals and entrepreneurs and small business owners will learn something from this recording as well.
Perfect.
Thanks.
All righty.